So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for taking out the time and being here with us for the 38th Parliamentary session of the World Teen Parliament. To formally start the session, I would request Yashnita Nambiar to please give the welcome note and start off this 38th Parliamentary session of the World Teen Parliament. Yashnita, over to you. Please unmute yourself for the welcome address.
Good evening, esteemed guests, honorable speakers, and fellow members of the World Teen Parliament. My name is Yashnita Nambiar, and I'm from India. I'm a grade 11 student at Mayo College Girls' School, Ajmer, and it is with great honor and enthusiasm that I welcome you to the 38th Parliamentary session. Today, we are privileged to be joined by distinguished leaders who have dedicated their lives to public service and advocacy. Our first speaker, the Honorable Edmund Hinkson, has been a steadfast member of Parliament for St. James North in Barbados since 2013. Beyond his legal acumen, Mr. Hinkson is nationally recognized as a leading advocate for the rights of persons with disabilities. His unwavering commitment to inclusivity and social justice has profoundly impacted his community and nation. Following him, we have the Honorable Enock Phale, Deputy Minister of Health and Member of Parliament for Salima Northwest in Malawi. With over 14 years of clinical dental practice, Mr. Phale has been instrumental in advancing Malawi's healthcare system. His dedication to public health and community well-being exemplifies leadership rooted in compassion and expertise. We are also honored to welcome the Honorable Shara Singh, Member of Parliament from Cape Town. Ms. Singh's dynamic approach to governance and her advocacy for youth engagement in politics have made her a prominent figure in her community. Her efforts continue to inspire young leaders to actively participate in shaping their societies. Lastly, we have Mr. Daksh Gaur, the visionary founder of Blub. Mr. Gaur's initiative has provided a global platform for teenagers to voice their opinions, engage in policy making, and drive change. His leadership has empowered countless young individuals to realize their potential as catalysts for positive transformation. As we embark on today's session, let us draw inspiration from our esteemed speakers and engage in meaningful dialogue that reflects our collective commitment to a better future. Thank you.
Thank you, Yashnita, for the welcome note for the 30th Parliamentary session. Let's now listen to our amazing guests who have taken out the time and are here with us to share their experience, their anecdotes, and their stories. And what do they think that the all elected teen MPs at the World Teen Parliament, what should they be doing? What are their expectations from you? How do they look at you? And what do they think? What kind of change can you build in the world with your efforts? So let me invite Mr. Edmund Hinkson, the Member of Parliament from Barbados, Parliament of Barbados. Mr. Edmund, over to you for the opening address of the 38th Parliamentary session.
It is an honor to be invited to address global teen parliamentarians. So it's my deep honor to be speaking with you all. It is great that you've shown a commitment to community and development in your country through being a teenage parliamentarian. It shows that you have an interest in the development of your people and your country. I myself, from the time I was a teenager, I determined that I would be an attorney at law. On both sides of my family, there are quite a few attorneys at law, and that I would want to offer myself to be a member of parliament, elected member of parliament, once given the opportunity to do so. Being a member of parliament is perhaps the highest honor that you can have, being a member of parliament of your country and your legislature. It provides the opportunity for you to be part of change and transition and advancement of your and your people, and improvement in the lives of the most vulnerable in your country, and to be part of change, because change is necessary and change ought to be positive. But you don't just become a member of parliament just like that by happen chance. You have to prepare for it. You have to remain focused and disciplined and know that that is what you want to achieve. If you want to achieve that, you have to lay out plans, 5-year plans, where you want to position yourself in 5 years' time. Presumably, most of you all, certainly I would think the vast majority would want in 5 years' time to have gone on to university and have a degree of vocational training and have additional certification from what you are doing now. I assume most of you all are still at secondary school, maybe doing what the equivalent of CXCs in Barbados or Cape, what we call, what most of us who have come out of the British colonial system, and obviously India and some of the African countries have come out of that, have that system. But where do you want to be in 5 years' time? Where do you want to see yourself? And then in 10 years' time, and then in 15 years' time, in terms of obviously more political activism, joining a political party, because you have to become a member of a political party if you want political electoral success.
Thank you so much, Mr. Edmund, for the start for the 30th Parliamentary session. You're very right with one of the statements that if you really want to be a part of politics and public life just to make a quick buck, stay away from it. You're getting this from somebody who has decades of experience in public life. So understand that corruption is a part of the political scenario in most other places across the globe. But when you, as a leader, come into this ecosystem or into this space, don't come with the wrong objectives. If you have the kind of empathy and space in your heart to really accommodate your constituents, remember you're there for them and not for yourself. Thank you so much, Mr. Edmund. Let me invite the next guest for today. A very warm welcome to Ms. Shara Singh, the Member of Parliament of the Democratic Alliance from Cape Town, Western Province, South Africa. Shara, ma'am, over to you. Please unmute yourself for the opening address of the 30th Parliamentary session.
Good evening, Program Director, Mr. Daksh Gaur, Honourable Teen MPs, influencers, esteemed leaders, and fellow change makers of tomorrow. It is an honor to address such a passionate group of young leaders. You are the future, and that future is full of possibility and opportunity. Today, I want to share some thoughts about the powerful position you occupy as teen MPs and the extraordinary impact you can have on the world. I grew up during apartheid in South Africa, a time when opportunities were scarce. Despite my love for law and sports, those dreams were restricted by segregation and injustice. These hardships shaped my deep commitment to fairness, justice, and equality. Though I ended up with a degree in accounting and auditing and ran my own business, things have come full circle for me. At the age of 60, I'm in my final year of studying law and serving as a member of Parliament, fighting for fairness and opportunity for all. My journey shows that it's never too late to pursue your passions and create opportunities for others to realize their potential. The role of an MP is powerful. MPs represent the people, making laws, setting policies, and influencing budgets that shape society, from healthcare and education to security and the environment. They are the bridge between government and the people, ensuring fairness and justice. As teen MPs, though not holding official government positions, you already serve as advocates for your generation, raising awareness about key issues and influencing your communities. Your leadership today has the power to drive positive change that will affect nations and the world. Teenagers today have immense power. The world often says that young people are the leaders of tomorrow. But the truth is, you are already the leaders of today. With access to technology, social media, and global platforms, you have the means to connect, share ideas, and push for change like never before. As Martin Luther King said, the time is always right to do what is right. Your actions, big or small, can inspire others to act with integrity. As you move forward in your leadership journeys, I want to emphasize the importance of striving for global peace and harmony. We are, after all, one family, the human family. Despite our different backgrounds, languages, and cultures, we share one planet, one future. It is up to us as global citizens to make sure we leave this world in a better state than we found it. Your leadership has the potential to help bridge divides, bring people together, and foster understanding. The world is facing many challenges. The solution to these lie in unity, collaboration, and our collective willingness to work together. My expectations for you are high, but I believe in your potential. Teen MPs can bring energy and innovation, challenging outdated systems and fostering inclusivity. You can advocate for issues that matter to you, such as climate action and mental health. My expectation is simple: dream big and act on those dreams. The world needs young leaders who are fearless in their pursuit of justice. Your actions will create a ripple effect that touches lives beyond what you may imagine today. Remember, leadership is about action. Speak up, take action, and never underestimate the impact of even a small effort. Strive to leave a legacy. Your actions, the change you inspire, and the opportunities you create will be your legacy. This is not about fame or recognition. It's about knowing you fought for what is right and made the world better for future generations. As the Native American proverb says, we do not inherit the earth from our ancestors. We borrow it from our children. Think about the legacy you want to leave. Will people remember you, someone who made a difference? Someone who stood up for justice, equality, and peace? You have the power to shape that legacy with every choice you make. Remember, you do not have to do this alone. Seek mentorship, resources, and opportunities from those who have walked this path before you. I am also committed to helping young leaders like you. To all the teen MPs and influencers here today, you have the power to change the world. You already are. Your actions, ideas, and vision are shaping the future which is in your hands. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Shara Singh. And you're very right, I think, by quoting that Indian quote from the American continent, that you don't inherit the earth, you rather borrow it from the future generation. So you have to understand, as teenagers, when you come into that leadership role, don't think you've inherited a legacy. Don't think you've got everything. Just think of yourself as a custodian of people's trust. Because when people vote for you, when they support you, they're placing their trust, their lives in your very hands. If you remember the voting debates that we do at the World Teen Parliament, and once you choose the leader, and when he or she takes decisions, how everyone's life gets impacted, that's what happens in your real life as well. So if you ever get elected into a position of power, understand what that power can really do to individual lives. Because when we have leaders who miss empathy, then we don't have an earth that's worth living. It becomes a hell, and it becomes very difficult for people to survive. So now it's the time for the question hour. We'll be inviting teenagers one after the other to ask their questions to the guests today. So let's start with the questions. The first question comes from Sharon Natalie. Sharon Natalie, please unmute yourself, introduce yourself, and ask your question. Sharon, over to you.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon and good evening. My name is Sharon Natalie, and I'm from St. Thomas's Catholic International College, Sidua, Gampa District, Sri Lanka. My question is from Mr. Edmund Hinkson. So, sir, my question is, what are some key skills teenagers should develop if they want to pursue leadership in roles in politics and law?
Well, as Shara said, and as Shara, I went to South Africa. South Africa was the first African country that I've been to. It was one of my best trips, attending an International Bar Association conference in Durban and traveling throughout South Africa on a safari. Being a member of parliament, as Shari said, is an extremely high honor. you're a member of the highest legislative body. You are a political and parliamentary representative of your people. And you're not just that, you are a mentor to your people, because in a small island developing country like mine, the parliamentarian is called on for all kind of things. Believe you me, for financial support, for guidance, to try to get jobs for people, to guide young persons, for everything, and especially in times of crisis. And we just came out of one, haven't we? COVID. You are called on even more, because certainly my constituency is in the heart of the tourist belt, and tourism is the main foreign exchange earner for Barbados. So during COVID, you could imagine 85% of the households in my constituency were affected by at least one person in that household losing their job. My country, like yours in Sri Lanka, is subject to climate change factors. And for 6 months of every year, my country is under a hurricane watch. Hurricane season, we had a hurricane passing. I didn't pass over Barbados, but damage to our fishing industry, our fishing stock, that was in July last year. A politician and parliamentarian has to be prepared to face all of these challenges. As has been said, you have to have discipline, you have to be focused, and you just have to have integrity, high ethical standards. And, it is said that your character is formed in the first 7 years of your life. So you don't gain those standards of integrity and high ethics when you're a teenager or young adult. By now, those should have been indoctrinated in you. The reality of the situation is that, as Mahatma Gandhi said, a country has to be judged by how it treats its most vulnerable. And therefore, it is the duty of the parliamentarian, as the political leaders of their people, to try to make life better for the most vulnerable in society. Law, you asked about law, and I'm assuming you may be thinking of becoming an attorney at law. Law is certainly a tremendous background in terms of being able and being using as a foundation to go in politics. It's an independent profession, and you should have independence as a politician, financial independence, psychological independence. And when you look around the world, I am sure that more world leaders have been attorneys at law, lawyers, than any other profession. Certainly, when you look at even the United States of America, a high percentage of their presidents have been attorneys at law. In my country, of the 8 prime ministers that we've had since independence, 6 have been attorneys at law. So it's a tremendous grounding to be that.
Sir, and I think a very important learning for all the teen MPs here, that if you really want to be an MP, one good route is try to become an advocate, a lawyer. Try studying law, because it will always give you an edge over everyone else around you. Thank you so much, sir. Let me invite the next student for the question. The next question comes from Kinley Yangden. Kinley, make sure to introduce yourself and ask your question. Kinley, over to you.
Hello, my name is Kinley Yangden. I'm from Bhutan, and my question goes to Ms. Shara Singh. And my question is, how can lawmakers tackle youth unemployment on era of autonomy and AI?
Thank you, Brandon, for the question. So basically, in South Africa, we have a really high unemployment rate. Our expanded unemployment rate is over 40%, which is really high. And when it comes to the youth, we are sitting at over 60%. So believe me when I tell you, we know a thing or two about the unemployment here in South Africa, and especially about the youth. So I'll just, to put it in perspective, I will say we must think about a quote, I think it was by Winston Churchill, when he said that, don't tell me what your priorities are. Show me your budget and I will tell you what your priorities are. So Edmund was absolutely right. Fundamentally, as MPs, you are lawmakers. So legal training would be essential to your job function. But knowing a thing or two about finance and economics would stand you in very good stead. So as a lawmaker, one of the things that you can do is advocate for particular programs in the budgets. So instead of giving people handouts, you can have things like a job seekers grant. You can give young people access to free internet connectivity so that they can go online and they can apply for jobs, things that they don't actually have and means that they don't have when they're unemployed. So that's very important. When it comes to AI, I said it earlier when I was talking, because I think that's going to become a very controversial issue in the sense that, to put it very simply as an analogy, you have a knife in your hand, and in the hand of a thief, that knife does one thing. But in the hand of a surgeon, that knife means something completely different. So AI is going to bring in all those questions of ethics, and it's going to upset and disrupt our world as we know it, especially in the labor market and the job market, because a lot of the jobs are now not going to be performed by people. And it is critically important that the youth of today are mindful about that and develop skills that will become relevant in that world. At the moment, to say what those skills would be is a little bit difficult because we're just getting into the world of AI. At the moment, I still drive a car that I have to drive. I'm not sure how long that would be, or whether I'd soon be avoiding the traffic and driving one in the air or taking an air taxi. But that's the future of the world. And that's what you've got to imagine. And the skills and the courses will start being offered. One of the countries to look forward to certainly is towards India, because I think when it comes to IT skills and that kind of thing, they certainly lead the world. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shara Singh. The next question comes from Samriddhi Tiwari. Samriddhi, please unmute yourself, introduce yourself, and ask a question.
Hello, my name is Samriddhi Tiwari. I am from Bengaluru, Karnataka, India. And my question is for Mr. Edmund. So, having served as an MP for over a decade with strong commitment to disability rights, what do you consider your most significant achievement in this area?
I thank you for that question. So to answer that question comprehensively, I need to give my background. My sister, who is 5 years younger than I am, was born deaf. She was born in England, where I lived as a little boy, having been born in Barbados. So from the time I was young, I made a promise to my parents, my sister, and to the Lord Almighty, because I'm a Christian in religion, that given the opportunity, I will serve people with disabilities and seek to improve their lives at policy and legislative level. I perhaps may not have got into elective politics without that desire. So, like I said, you have to plan your life. Being an attorney at law, preparing yourself to be an advocate, serving in service organizations, the Lions Clubs, etc. I was a director of the Council for the Disabled in Barbados. So at this stage, I have served people with disabilities in my country for about 35 years at various levels. My most recent mandate was as chairman of the National Advisory Committee on Disabilities, with the mandate to propose a national policy for people to advance the lives of people with disabilities and to have crafted the Rights of Persons with Disabilities Bill. I'm proud to say that Barbados now has a legislatively approved national disabilities policy that was passed in Parliament 4 months ago. And just last month, we passed the Rights of Persons with Disabilities Bill. Barbados was behind a lot of the world, India, a lot of the African countries, North America, Europe, and some CARICOM countries of which Barbados is a member of state, in not having such legislation. I am extremely proud, therefore, that essentially I have achieved the main purpose of why I came into elective politics. I was also for 2 years Minister of Home Affairs of my country, in charge of many aspects of home affairs, including immigration. And, you know, during my time, the Immigration Department became nationally accepted the best department in government. In our public service is not always the easiest to deal with, to maneuver around, both for our citizens and for those tourists, etc. Like I said, but tourism is Barbados's main foreign exchange earner. But the Immigration Department improved tremendously in efficiency in the time I was minister. So that as well, I'm proud of. What I would want to also say here is that if it is your intention to serve your country at parliamentary level, you try to acquire as much knowledge as possible. Knowledge is key. Knowledge, including in global affairs. We have, of course, as Shara spoke to climate change, and I mean, that is major. Each of our countries here need reform of the international financial architecture, where our countries, I don't believe anyone on this call belongs to a country which has veto power in the security of the United Nations. And we know that the United Nations was established in 1947, around the time that India became the first country to free itself from British colonial rule. And none of our countries were independent countries at the time. The United Nations and the world financial sector of Bretton Woods and political structure was formed. And we need to be part of that, because we need change as countries that are now the majority of countries, vast majority in the United Nations, but yet don't have any permanent representation on the Security Council. And so therefore you need to be knowledgeable fully of global affairs and keep abreast of that. I thank my parents tremendously, because at age 4 or 5 years old, my parents bought me a set of encyclopedias, Britannica encyclopedias, and I immersed myself in those encyclopedias and gained tremendous knowledge of the world as it stood at that time, all aspects of the world. And that was the grounding for my knowledge in international and global affairs. And I urge that you all, as young teen parliamentarians, also have that kind of mindset and framework in your development as you move to adulthood. I thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. The next question comes from Claudia Spataru. Claudia, over to you. Please unmute yourself, introduce yourself, and ask your question.
I'm Claudia from King's Oak, and my question is for Ms. Shara Singh. As a newly elected member of the Parliament for the Democratic Alliance, what are your primary goals for your first term, and how do you plan to address the concerns of your constituents? Thank you.
I am the DA deputy spokesperson on small business development. So that is my passion. And the issues that I'm driving for my first term is or are the failure by local government to provide services that are now causing massive problems for industry, because we can't keep the lights on, we can't have a constant water supply, which is a serious problem, not just for residents, but also for businesses, especially in the tourism industry. So those are the kind of issues that I'm actually driving. I'm passionate about small business because I do believe that we need to create jobs in South Africa. I did tell you we have the highest unemployment rate in the world. So my focus on in my first term is forcing a change in the policies and the funding structures of the current agencies that we have, because currently they are chasing numbers of people that they help, no monitoring, and it's not actually having the impact that we want. So I have already put in proposals that we should be measuring the impact in terms of jobs, and how many of those startups are actually sustainable and viable. There's going to be a lot of mentoring and training of entrepreneurs as well. Regarding my constituency is 10,600 square kilometers, and it's about 95% rural. So it is a massive constituency, and with very high rates of unemployment. So that ties in with what I'm driving at Parliament. But I'm also fortunate that currently we're in a government of national unity, and I have a Minister of Agriculture who is actually my party leader as well, because I have a lot of farmers in my area. And obviously we'd be looking at trying to assist them as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Shara Singh. I think two very amazing things. One is a realization, and one thing that's happening today. Till now, all the questions that have come from female MPs and influencers. We have not taken any questions from a male MP or influencer, but we'll see what comes next. But before we move ahead, I think a very important observation that Mr. Edmund has made, and which even I had a realization during the conversation itself, that we don't have an elected MP or an influencer from a country that has a permanent seat at the Security Council. Now, this is something superbly important, and I think when this year when we do these voting debates, because we do these voting debates in some of those countries as well who have a seat at the Security Council, but I don't know why we don't have an elected MP from there. But we'll take conscious effort this year to see that how does it really pan out? Is it something that does behavior really stop people from being that, or is there something else within it? But thank you so much, sir, for that important observation. Let me invite the next speaker for the question. The next question comes from Udechukwu Onyebuchi. Udechukwu, over to you. Please unmute yourself and ask your question, and make sure to introduce yourself.
Yes. Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. My name is Udechukwu Onyebuchi. I'm from Plasan My School, Abuja, Nigeria. My question is, what are the top 3 strengths that you practice the most as a leader? And also, what are the most important skills for a leader to have?
I thank you for that very interesting question. Now, realize that at age 18, you can vote in most countries, certainly in mine. In many countries at age 18, you can in fact become a member of the legislative parliament. In Barbados, it's at 21. We attempted to lower it to 18, but it did not have national support. So even though my political party won all the seats last election, we tried to operate with transparency and accountability, so we withdrew that motion. It would be good. Your voice counts, as Shara said. That's the first thing, and matters. And I would also want to urge, for example, your young teen parliamentarians to attend town hall meetings, which are held to discuss issues, whether at community and national level. For example, in my country, we're going through constitutional reform, and they had many town hall meetings to discuss this. This is a process that teen parliamentarians can become involved in, having their voices heard by attending these kind of meetings and speaking on them, and writing in the newspapers, writing to your members of parliament and other leaders, getting involved in educational discussions on local and global affairs. For example, as we know, this is Black History Month celebrated throughout the world, and some of your countries or districts may have discussions on Black history. Attend those and have your voices be heard and considered. Young people can indeed make a difference in global affairs. And Shara spoke about Greta and the young Nobel Prize winner from Africa. There is also a young person who recently received an award from the leader of Dubai, I believe it was, the Arab Emirates and the Pope, a joint award given in their respective names. My Prime Minister, the Honorable Mia Amor Motley, also was one of the three people together with this young person who received the award. So you can make a difference and champion causes, as was said. I championed in my country the cause of disabilities. I'm recognized across political lines as the leading disabilities advocate, certainly one of the two leading disabilities advocates in Barbados. So you identify a cause and you champion it. You just don't go into politics saying, I want to help poor people, for example, to use that phrase, but have a focus on how you want to help them to get out of poverty, to make life better for them, what category of individuals you want to improve their lives. You've heard Shara speak towards her interest in business interests and trying to reduce the unemployment rate in her country, in her constituency. These are the kind of motivating factors and ideals that you ought to have as teen parliamentarians. I thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for the answer. The next question comes from Nishika Somwani. Nishika, over to you. Please unmute yourself and introduce yourself.
I am Nishika Somwani from Indian Language School, Lagos, Nigeria. And my question is to Ms. Shara Singh. So my question to you, ma'am, is how can ordinary citizens actively participate in local government decisions and make their voices heard? Thank you.
So, firstly, I think Edmund has covered a lot in his previous response. I think the only thing I would actually add is that you have to get involved. Because if you don't get involved, you can't sit on the sidelines and expect your voice to be heard. So the decision would be is how to get involved and at your age. So I will put it like this, for you to decide which flavor of ice cream you like, you'd have to try all the flavors to decide what you like. So at the moment, there's lots of organizations. Go out and volunteer. You will find a purpose. You will find what you have a passion for, and that gives you some kind of direction. The other thing is that Edmund spoke about public participation. Most governments, democratic governments, whenever laws are passed, they have this public participation process in the form of town hall meetings, in the form of sometimes online platforms. Sometimes they invite comments to be submitted. So at a local government level, you'll also have laws being passed in terms of bylaws. Get involved in that. I'll just leave you for something to think about. So in South Africa, we have a situation where there's a lot of Indian people, and of course, the Diwali is celebrated. And for 7 years that I was a ward councillor, the one thing that never stopped, that everyone that loves together and works together for community issues would completely have a meltdown with the fireworks. And so you had the animal lovers wanting to protect things, but the municipality is currently reviewing its bylaw on the use of fireworks. So it's something that's advertised in your local community papers. It's something you can attend and have your voice. But I think Edmund covered it. It's about getting involved and becoming an activist for something you believe in.
The next question comes from Kamya Jaglan. Kamya, over to you. Please unmute yourself, introduce yourself, and ask your question. Kamya Jaglan.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Kamya Jaglan from Ryan International School, India. My question is to Mr. Edmund Hinkson. Barbados has been a pioneer in advocating for climate justice and innovative financial instruments like blue bonds. How can small island nation like yours inspire larger global corporations to address climate change while ensuring economic stability and sovereignty?
Climatic conditions affect our country and our region in the Caribbean so tremendously. A hurricane in 2017 wiped out 220% of the GDP of Dominica, one of our neighboring countries and fellow CARICOM member states. So this is important to us. We're low-lying, we're an island, where Barbados is the most easterly country in the Caribbean. As I said, for half of the year, potentially subject to hurricanes. So this is important. We speak about it in the international arena all the time. And what we have done, for example, is we've been able to negotiate international debt reprofiling with our creditors, that if we get hurricane, tremendous adverse weather conditions, we will have a 2-year waiver on our repayment of our international debts. For example, we have been able to get slightly lower interest rates on our international loans, because the reality of the situation, in case you all didn't know, is that the European countries, for example, are able to borrow international loans, are able to get international funding at 1% interest rate. But most of our developing countries are subject to interest rates of about 14% on repayment of our international loans. This can't be fair. We're the world's most vulnerable countries, countries that are in a large measure subject to global weather and other challenges and phenomenon, are subject to the highest interest rates on the money we borrow, whereas Europe and Canada even, and other countries in the OECD that are the cause of industrialization and of adverse weather conditions on our countries have favorable interest rates. So as a politician, as a parliamentarian, we are talking about justice, social justice, economic justice for your people, for your country. And these are the kind of issues that confront us and that we can address.
Thank you so much, sir. The next question comes from Kenzy Mohammed. Kenzy, please unmute yourself, introduce yourself, and ask your question.
Hi, I'm Kenzy Elshazly. I'm Egyptian. I'm from Antoniettes International School. My question is to Ms. Shara. So basically, how can I make the best out of my time in the International Team Parliament?
Thank you, Kenzy. Thank you for the question. So by asking your question, I think you're making the best of your time. And I see we still haven't had any of the males. So I'm very pleased about that, to have all the females dominating the session today. So you are there. I think one of the things that you need to do, you are making the most of your time by the sessions that you are having, the trainings that you are having. I've watched some of the videos about the kind of topics that actually come up that you are engaging. So it's a learning experience outside of your normal schooling. And I think it's broadening your horizons. All of you have your own circles of influence. Most of you, almost all of you, go to a school. Talk to your peers about it. Encourage them to be part of it. Engage with them about what you are hearing, what you are listening. Share with them the contacts that you have so that you can get more of them getting involved. I think that would be probably the best use of your time during this, apart from trying to get involved in organizations or projects where you can discover your own passions and purpose on an individual space.
The next question comes from the first mail for today, Atharva Agrawal. Atharva, over to you. Please introduce yourself and ask a question.
Good evening, everyone. I am Atharva Agrawal from India, studying at Bridgetown International School. Today, my question is for Mr. Edmund. How is Barbados balancing the urgent need for economic diversification to combat climate change with the continued importance of the tourism to the national economy?
Being a leader, political leader in a small island developing state is extremely challenging. Some people may not realize that. You have to juggle the different interests and groups that come to you in terms of financing, in terms of concessions, in terms of needs. The pie is only so big to divide and decide how you're going to serve all of these interests. In fact, the estimates debate in Barbados starts tomorrow. And I'm sure that you all know that each year, a country, at least that practices democracy as we know it, has to go to Parliament for Parliament to approve the expenditure and to vote monies for the various departments of government and the salaries of government employees for the next year. And in Barbados, the financial year starts on the 1st of April. So our estimates is always starts in the second half of February. And yes, it is difficult juggling economic development, yes, and the challenges of climate change and everything else that confronts us. And this is, as I said, what needs to be done. And the only way you can do it, of course, is by knowledge and experience and bringing all the various experiences of parliamentarians and cabinet ministers together to try to achieve this. And yes, Shara mentioned earlier briefly about maintaining your mental health and well-being. And that is primary, because I know all over the world we have a challenge of too many young people breaking down and mental health issues being a concern, and young people in some cases contemplating suicide, harming themselves, in some cases carrying it out. So society also has to be mindful of this, not to put too much pressure on young people, or to ensure that young people don't put too much pressure on themselves.
Thank you so much, Edmund. So the next question comes from Neha Sultana. Neha, please unmute yourself, introduce yourself and ask your question.
My question is from Ms. Shara Singh. My question is that, what's your vision for empowering women and youth in Western province of South Africa, and how do you plan to drive meaningful change?
So when it comes to women empowerment, the one thing that we do have is that for many years, since the advent of democracy in South Africa in 1994, we've had a government who has been totally corrupt. We've had state capture. The economy has gone backwards. But they have been very progressive, and credit must be given where it is due. they've been very progressive on women's rights, because during the time when almost all of the leaders from the liberation movements were banned and were exiled and imprisoned, the women took up the role, and they became very vocal in protest and that kind of thing. So we had a very strong ANC Women's League. And that has resulted in, we are close to 50% of our MPs and leaders that are women. So we have a good balance high up. Obviously, lower down, it's not the same. But we also have some laws which personally I do not agree with, because I do not believe in quotas. Because the minute you start putting quotas in place, whilst you're trying to actually encourage a certain thing to happen and change the demographics, transform what people would very loosely term transformation these days, then you start to lose your merit-based appointments. So the important thing is fighting for education, the cause that Malala has taken up. Because if women empower themselves through education, then in most democracies, they will have an equal chance to realize their full potential. So education is going to be key. Empowering yourself, even if you do not have it. Unfortunately, it's going to be very difficult in countries where there are laws that actually will not allow women to be empowered. So currently in my own constituency, just to come around, we've done an inspection of most of the schools, and we are looking out at dropout rates. And the big problem we have in South Africa is teenage pregnancies. And that is something that we want to take up, because you want to firstly prevent that, because you can't have children themselves becoming parents. That's the one thing. But then very often they actually drop out of school as well. So what we are ensuring that even if that does happen, because of the high rate of teenage pregnancy, that we make sure that they get back into school and complete their education. So that's something that we are pursuing. So we are looking very carefully at the schools, at the dropout rates, and helping these girls.
Thank you so much for that answer, ma'am. So now it's time to take some of the questions that the audience has submitted through YouTube and through different boards. A very interesting question that has come, and I think I would want to pose this question to both the guests today, that if you could ban or typically completely stop one annoying habit from your own parliaments, what would that be, and why would you do that? Any annoying thing that you see regularly in your parliaments, and you would want to typically stop that from happening. Mr. Edmund, first we would like to listen to you, and then to Ms. Shara.
I don't know that I could, without serious contemplation, think about an annoying practice that I would want to stop, or to see stop. But certainly, I'm happy that there's now greater involvement again of the public in a process. We're looking at constitutional reform. So in a case like that, you obviously have to be mindful that Parliament does not become a tool whereby, the ruling party just forces its will on the people without proper input from the people.
Thank you so much. Ms. Shara, over to you. What's that one habit or one thing that you would want to typically stop happening in your parliament?
I think the thing that comes to mind, we have 14 parties represented in parliament, and they range from the far right to the extreme left. So the difference in ideologies couldn't be more distinct. And what happens is that in many of our sessions, we have MPs that are just playing to the camera. It's free airtime. making populist statements. And because of parliamentary privilege, they can call you names, they can say things. And this is part of, I'm not sure about the name calling, but I have seen one or two Indian sessions that can also get a bit heated up, kind of thing. So whilst that may be par for the course, but when the debate is happening in a way that is not constructive, it is leading people in South Africa to be so disillusioned. They actually say, well, Parliament is a circus. But seriously, that's what people say. And it's why we all get painted with the same brush. And the younger generation are losing interest in politics. They feel they may as well try and change the country from the outside. And there's some things that you can't change from the outside. You can't change the laws. You have to be in parliament. So that, I would say, is a really annoying habit. One other very short thing I would like to say is that we have a system where it's not an annoyance, but it's generally the governing party of the time blocks accountability of the executive. And that's exactly why we are there. When we have ministers, it's the duty of parliament to hold them accountable for the services that they render from that department. And when there are failures, but in a lot of instances, we've had the situation where they use their numbers to actually block accountability. And eventually that accountability comes from somebody having to go to court. But the point that I want to make is that it's the disillusionment that younger people are feeling, and they're not entering politics, because I'd like somebody here on this session to tell us that they believe politicians have a very good reputation. I'm not so sure I'll find anyone.
I think you've made a perfect observation, and you're very right when you say it happens across the globe in all the parliaments. When you look at parliamentary proceedings, whenever you put people in power, accountable for something, they find a way of, losing that accountability thing, and then people have to go to court and force them to, respond and give answers. And I think that brings in a lot of disillusionment. And we are trying our best to at least engage the teenagers in knowing and understanding that, that's the way the world works. Find out your space in it, and can you make something good around it? So it's amazing to listen to both our speakers today. It has been an amazing session. We still have a lot of questions, but we know that the time is limited. So let's have the closing statements, first from Mr. Edmund and then from Ms. Shara for the 30th Parliamentary session. Mr. Edmund, over to you for the closing statements for the 30th Parliamentary session.
I thank you. It has really been an honor, as I started by saying, to address you all young teen parliamentarians. For my closing, I would want to, and this has been hinted slightly, to form alliances with other youth parliaments and exchange visits to different parliaments if at all possible. In Barbados, we have a youth parliament, for example. Other Caribbean countries have this. It would be great to have exchange visits among youth parliamentarians during, the summer, for example. Also, we have student exchanges. My alumni, Harrison College Secondary School, recently had a student exchange with a leading college in Jamaica, a fellow sister CARICOM country. I think students from Harrison College went there last year or 2 years ago, and students from that school, Champion College, recently visited Harrison College and Barbados, and it is always great. It's an opportunity, of course, to see different culture, different people. So I urge all y'all to have compassion and to have community service and care of people as your main mantra if you wish to become political leaders in your respective countries and to make a difference in those countries and also in your region.
Thank you so much, Mr. Edmund. Over to Ms. Shara Singh for her closing statement for the parliamentary session.
Thank you, Daksh. Firstly, I want to say thank you for this opportunity. It's been a wonderful engagement, and it's been an honor to be on this platform with Edmund. Perhaps the next time he's in South Africa, we can certainly meet. I think I echo a lot of the sentiments that he has actually voiced out, so I'm not going to actually repeat that. What I would say, though, on a more personal and individual level, is that you must have empathy and know who your audience is. Always know who your audience is. The audience that you have on this platform today is different to when you are speaking to your parents or when you are with your football team, or if you actually go out on some outreach program to a hospital where they are providing free cataract operations. And it is important to understand who you are addressing. That doesn't mean you do not become authentic, but because you always have to be authentic, but you need to actually understand who you are speaking to. Because if you know who you are speaking to, you will be able to actually connect with them. Because if people do not connect with you, you will never have the kind of response that you need, and you will not have electoral support either if you're thinking about becoming a leader. And to take that one step further, never forget why you are doing this. Because when people do progress higher up any ladder, but we're talking about the political spectrum now, you tend to forget who put you there. And never forget that you're their servant to serve them. They're not doing you a favor. So bear some of those dynamics in the greater scheme of things. It will keep you grounded. It's also a very difficult world out there. So I urge every one of you, there are many practices and you choose what's right for you, but build up your inner resilience so that when you face these challenges, you are not thrown off balance. Those things will come and they will happen, but you will not be thrown off balance. I would just like to end up by saying, Daksh, if there are questions, I'm more than happy if it's sent through and I can respond in writing. And I would like to just ask the teen MPs something, which if they respond, and I'm happy to look at those responses.
I think a very apt challenge that you have given to all the teen parliamentarians today, that do you have some ideas so that people in South Africa listen to all the political parties, give them the right kind of attention, listen to their ideas, and vote not just only on the basis of some innate thought process that they might already have. I would not say it to be prejudice, but some ideas so that they get more open towards different ideas, different parties, and look at things from the perspective of their own growth as individuals, as communities, and as a country. So all the teen parliamentarians, get set and going. Send in your ideas. We'll send your ideas over to Ms. Shara Singh. And the best idea will surely get rewarded by the World Teen Parliament. And I hope we'll get an appreciation letter from ma'am as well for you. So do you have some ideas to help out, ma'am, in that particular perspective? Thank you so much, Ms. Shara Singh. So now, to conclude the session, I would request Navya Sangram for the thank you note for concluding the 38th parliamentary session. Navya, over to you.
Good evening, everyone. I am Navya Sagaram from Indian Language School, Lagos, Nigeria. As we come to the close of this inspiring session, I want to take a moment to express my deepest gratitude to our esteemed guests. Your presence, insights, and words of wisdom have truly been invaluable. A special thank you to Mr. Edmund Hinkson, Mr. Enock Phale, and Ms. Shara Singh for sharing your time, knowledge, and experiences with us today. Your insights have not only enlightened us, but have also motivated us to think critically, lead with purpose, and work towards a better future. We truly appreciate your generosity in sharing your expertise and guiding us with your wisdom. To all the participants, your enthusiasm and engagement have made the session even more meaningful. Let's carry forward the lessons we have learned and turn them into actions. Once again, a heartfelt thank you to our special guests for inspiring us. We are grateful for your support and hope to learn from you again in the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Have an amazing evening. Have an amazing day. Have an amazing week ahead. Namaste.